What's good, people? I'm making this video on the move because I got shit to do today, but I still wanted to put this video out, a sandwich video in between the last one I did, right? And I was having a conversation earlier today, and I've had this similar conversation with a couple of people over the last couple of months, and yeah, basically, get straight to the point, right? I personally don't identify myself as a nigger. Now, this is an issue that's obviously a divided thing amongst black people. You can technically say a divided thing amongst people in general, because certain people feel that white people or whatever, non-blacks, whatever you want to call it, right, feel that they can say it, or because black people call each other nigger, which is, I can see where they're coming from, but that's also a flawed argument. It's like saying that you call your mother a fucking whore, so, right, so anyone can call your mother a fucking whore because you do? That's bullshit. Now, it's a false equivalent in some sense, it's the same relevance to me, right? Anyway, in my opinion, from a European perspective, right? Black people born or raised in Europe, or born or raised in Europe, as I might be, right? To be running around calling each other niggers, I think it's ridiculous, right? The American context is very different. Not that it's not any less ridiculous, it's ridiculous. But there's a social conditioning to how it came about in America. And if you understand that, you can understand how that goes. Some of the people I respect the most use nigger freely and openly. Most still wouldn't allow white people to call them nigger, but they would use that amongst themselves. They would call a white people person nigger, or whoever they feel to call a nigger, right? And but let me focus in on the European context for a second, right? So my thing is this. Specifically, let's use me as an example. I'm traveling into the Balkans, a lot of places in East Europe where there isn't that many black people, where people don't really know the history of the word. That's a fact. Most people don't. In fact, a lot of black people don't. So how do you expect people in certain areas of Europe where there isn't that many black people to know the history of the word? They hear nigger and they think it's just a word they heard in a fucking 50 Cent record or whoever they listen to, right? That's what they think it is. Yeah, man, brother. Or not. Like, I've been in situations where I've asked somebody not to call me nigger, and they've been confused, and I've had to explain to them, like, you know what that means? And once I've explained to them, I mean, there is no strict definition, but once I've explained to them certain aspects of the historical content behind the term, they've never said that to me again. In fact, they've never said that again, in most cases anyway. I can't speak for all cases, but in most cases. And I can honestly tell you, from when I left Ireland and I came to UK, well, from when I left school in Ireland, I was obviously born in the UK, but when I left school in Ireland, the only time I'd heard nigger in Ireland was when somebody was racially abusing me. I honestly tell you that there was a point in the UK where I'd never heard anyone say nigger. Nobody had ever called me nigger. I'd never seen another black person address another black person as a nigger. The first time I heard that in London was a Soul Solid record. I think it was a Mega Man solo record, but it was a Soul Solid record one of the singles from their album. They did a video, and it wasn't 21 seconds as well, my bad. So basically, the first time and this isn't to blame Soul Solid directly, what I'm saying is that's the time period that I heard British black people using nigger, and the first time I heard it was in that record. And if you look at elements of Soul Solid, even though it was garage, a very UK music, the imagery of Soul Solid there was a lot of elements that were emulating what you see in the States. So the whole nigger issue in Europe, it's just us emulating America for some reason. You know, whatever they do is so fantastic, and we gotta copy it, especially in Britain. And That's ridiculous, because the amount of, even in America, the amount of, like, white people laugh at us. The white people who are, let's say, a higher bracket of class or status, those types of white people, they laugh at us because we still call each other this. And I think in 2014, we can't come up with something better to call each other than nigga. Like, really? What? This whole idea of taking the power away from the word, and that's bullshit to me. Let's, for argument's sake, say that's it. That's because that's one of the arguments that gets brought up amongst black people. Oh, we're using it to take the power away from the word. If that's the case, how is it if a random white person that you don't know calls you nigger, you're wilding out? Obviously, it's not working. This taking the power away from the word is obviously not working. If a random white person calls you a nigger, you're wilding out. To give a few examples of why I think it's a very nonsensical thing to be throwing the N-bomb around when you're in certain parts of Europe especially. Example, I already said certain places of Europe don't really understand the full context or the various contexts depending on your perspective of it, right? Of nigger, right? So, and I've dealt with certain situations where I remember my first time in Belgrade. In fact, first time in Belgrade, was up there went down there to do a music video, and was my first morning there. Came out of the hostel. Guys met me at the hostel, we went out to shoot something. Or it was the first day of shooting anyway. Don't think it was the first day in Belgrade per se. But just came out of the hostel, I'm walking out, and all I hear is, yo nigga, nigga. And I'm like, what? I look up and I just see these little kids in this building across the street screaming nigger out the window. Now, you can talk about how comfortable you are, how, you know, everybody, it's just a word. You can do all that bullshit if you want. But if you were in that situation where there's not many black people around, in that exact moment, I was the only black person in the vicinity, and there's a bunch of white people, albeit kids, but there's a bunch of white people screaming nigger at you, and you're going to feel comfortable with that. If you're going to even try and pretend that would be the case, I know you're chatting shit. I know you're chatting shit, okay? But I know that they didn't mean it in a malicious way. I just ignored it. They were too far away to really have a conversation with them about it. Because I honestly stop people at times and say, yo, give another example. More recently, last year, I was in Sarajevo, right? So I'm in Sarajevo, I'm coming up to the apartment building where I was staying. And there's these kids that always play out at the front, right? In the morning, afternoons, whatever, right? So I'm walking back one day, and one of them screams, yo, what up, nigga? And I just turned, not aggressively, I turned around, stopped, I smiled, I said, hey man, could you please not call me that? Simple. Please don't call me that. And I walked off. They were silent. There was this real awkward tension for a moment, but I could feel it amongst them. I was like, I knew why, you know, I knew why I said what I said, and hopefully they were gonna get it. So I just was carried on walking to my apartment building, and I just heard these footsteps behind me, pounding footsteps. And I turned around the last moment, and this kid, like, he must have been like 11. Look, like he probably was the oldest one out of the lot, or one of the oldest ones. They would range from maybe like 8 to 10, 11, I would say. And he like tapped me on the back just as I was turning, and he said, sorry, don't take any notice of my friend. He didn't know. He doesn't know. He's just stupid. He doesn't know. And I said, nah, it's not that he's stupid. It's not that he's stupid at all. It's just, like you said, he doesn't know. But now, he knows. Don't worry about it. And I said, you know, thanks for taking the opportunity to address the issue, though. And that's it, simple. I said, you know, next time, you know, just tell him next time, when he sees me out here, you can say, yo, what up, man? what up, brother? Jesse Brate, or whatever, you know. We can kick it like that. It's all good. But what up, nigga? That's not gonna fly with me. As long as he understands that, we're cool. We ain't got problems. And it's really that simple. That's all it takes. But to be a black person in Europe and to perpetuate this idea of niggerism, right? To me, right? I don't know, man. It's like I said, each to their own. I think it's unwise, personally. That's my personal opinion. I think it's very unwise going into a situation. It's like, all right, would you lend your car, if you're a driver? I can't drive, but would you lend your car to somebody who doesn't have a driver's license? Maybe you would, but you would have to understand that that's an irresponsible thing to do, right? You'd have to understand that. Now, would you lend your car to somebody who can't drive and doesn't have a driver's license? So you lend your car to somebody who doesn't have a driver's license but also can't drive, but you know they're going to try and drive your car. Would you do that? No. And in my opinion, throwing around nigger in certain places in Europe where people are not really aware of black history. I mean, we get taught black history in the UK, if you want to call it that. It's just basically glorified years of slavery, which if that's all you think black history is, which we should really be calling African history, to be fair, but whatever, for the purposes of the title, if that's all you think black history is, then fine. But basically we get taught years of slavery, like how black people were slaves. Like the last thing I will say on this is, right, you may have a different opinion on it to me, and that's fair enough. It's all about having different opinions. But like I always say to people, I don't identify myself as a nigger. So as long as you don't call me a nigger, as long as you don't call me a nigger, we're cool. You say it wherever you want, to whoever you want, whatever. Don't use it as to address me. And let me make this clear. I'm not talking about banning the word. That's another thing people seem to get confused when people say they don't like the term niggers. Oh, so you think we should ban the word? No, I'm not talking about banning the word. Language is there to be used to describe things. I think it should be used, but I think it should be used in the context of its actual meaning. So we're discussing nigger, then say nigger. Like, I don't have a problem with white people saying nigger or black people saying nigger. Like I said, I don't think anybody should be using it really. I think it's foolish to use it as a term of endearment in general, but even more so in places where there's not a lot of black people. That's my 2 cents on it. Peace.